Part 85. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 843. The ghosts are still there. Li Hezi, the monarch of the Yuan dynasty, is really a fanatic Yekong. Yekong, the patriarch of the mixed monarch, is back. There is also a man in black who is above the level of deification. As soon as the emperor of the mixed Yuan sect, Yekong returned, he destroyed one of the Haitian zones. All the 4 Yuan infants of the Haitian zone died, and the Xianxia emperor controlled by the mixed Yuan zone abdicated. Indeed, the Fang market of each case is the tool for gathering information of other cases. These past few days, the Fang Yuan market of the mixed Yuan zone followed the fire. Numerous musical notes were issued like migratory locusts. They flew to the various cases and rushed to their destination, with all the shocking news above. In front of the temple of Hunyuan, 3 figures stood quietly. In the evening sunset, the high steps in front of the temple of Hunyuan were dyed golden red. Yekong looked down at the Xingluo island below, and pulled out a long shadow behind him. Kuangpeng stood in the shadow behind him. Standing outside the hall was because in some places of the mixed Yuan hall there was a prohibition on the operation of spiritual power. Yekong did not want to be mad, so he just stood outside the door to discuss. I can intercept all the notes, Kuangpeng said suddenly. Standing on one side, Li Haoshan couldn't help but look at this mysterious man in black again. As a great monk after the Yuan infant, he could also intercept ordinary musical notes. But if you want to intercept all the notes, you need dozens of monks, not to mention, most of these notes are special encrypted notes with accelerated speed. However, he had no doubt that this man in black could do it, because his cultivation was so high that he was enough to look up to the point that he couldn't figure out what the other's cultivation was now. Yekong laughed, "Why do you want to cut it down? The message should be passed." Kuangpeng whispered, looking upset. Li Haoshan could not help but go and see the man in black again. When I was upset, I went to intercept other people's notes. This expert really has a personality. At this time, Yekong asked, "Isn't Sun Jinshan's situation asked?" Li Haoshan hurriedly retracted his eyes and replied, "Sect Master, I searched Sun Jinshan's Yuanying for a soul and found that he accidentally got a small bronze mirror salvaged from the sea 3 months ago. This bronze mirror turned out to be a treasure. There can actually be a bronze face inside. This face told him that sooner or later he could rule the major denominations in Kangnan, and the method of refining the blood dan was also told by the bronze face, and the bronze face also told him, saying that it has the practice of yuanying after the major denominations. Speaking of which, Li Haoshan thought that it is no wonder that Xianxia and Fit Island were willing to help Sun Jinshan. They dared to have such a big temptation. The practice behind yuanying was even more important to the late monks of the yuanying than their lives. That, you can continue to cultivate, soaring is no longer a dream. Oh? Did the bronze face say his name? Yekong asked again. Bronze faces call themselves Miles Reincarnation. Yekong froze, wasn't Wanli Reincarnation killed by himself? How come? What exactly is this thing? Why does it seem to be against you intentionally? What about the mirror? Li Haoshan raised his hand and took out a small bronze mirror and handed it over, saying, I just couldn't feel the spiritual power fluctuations when I found this bronze mirror, and I didn't see any bronze faces. Yekong smiled slightly and handed the bronze mirror to Li Haoshan. That thing has escaped. Li Haoshan sighed and took the bronze mirror silently, a little bit lost in his heart. Yekong slightly smiled. He understood Li Haoshan's thoughts very much. Bachan wanted to grab the bronze face and explore the practice behind the mixed Yuan zone. Then he sighed. However, Yekong didn't want to take out the exercises of the mixed Yuan zone later. Yekong's purpose is not to distrust Li Haoshan. Although Li Haoshan also has shortcomings, he has a great responsibility for the death of Wei Xianrong and the anti-Chen Handsome. However, What Li Haoshan has done today has proven that he is a trustworthy person. Ye Kong was not in a hurry to take out the exercises because he had not yet reached the time, and he did not want to let the outside world know that he had received the later practice exercises of various denominations. Some things are more valuable when they are taken out at the right time. Then send a note to the remaining 17 Jo men, and say that Ye Kong is back and formally took over as the patriarch of the Yuan dynasty. 3 months later, they invited them to visit the patron of the Yuan dynasty. You decide the date. Ye Kong asked this. Li Haoshan asked, does the suzerain want to meet with the elder Yuan Ying of each Suzi? Yes. Li Haoshan laughed. It is not necessary to invite them to come to Yuan zone. 3 months later, a party every 20 years will be held between the high gates in Yunfuzong. Oh? Still this kind of party? Li Haoshan said, this is a very old tradition, but it has gradually faded out more than 100 years ago, but some people have recently mentioned it, probably because someone watched Lingju Mountain and Me Mixed Yuan Zone Week and wanted to take the opportunity redefine the seat of the high gate. Ye Kong nodded. Okay, I'd like to see which one wants to grab my position as a hybrid Yuan Zone. I want them to cry too late. Li Haoshan laughed, there are Kuangpeng seniors here, how dare they make this, and they have no idea when they have an idea. Indeed, with the practice of Kuangpeng, he can sweep Kangnan by himself at any high school, low door. But then, Li Haoshan heard something that shocked him, but it was a pity. Kuangpeng waved, 3 months, I can't wait, I'm about to fly. Flying, Li Haoshan was shocked. He knew that Kuangpeng's cultivation was high, but he did not expect such a high level. But then his face flashed again. I thought that the suzerain brought a master back to sit in town. I never imagined that the master was temporary and could not wait for 3 months. At that time, the mixed Yuan zone would still face punishment. The situation in the palace. How? I'm sorry, and you have an opinion. Li Haoshan is really not a material for acting, and everything in his heart is on his face. Kuangpeng can see it. No, no, Li Haoshan quickly waved. Hearing Ye Kong again, well, don't hide this news. Li Haoshan didn't understand it. Even if Kuangpeng soared, it was better to conceal it as far as possible, so that everyone knew that the master Yuan zone still had a deterrent effect. He asked, what does the Lord mean? Ye Kong laughed, so that I can see that those denominations will jump out and target me. Li Haoshan smiled bitterly. If Xianxia's predecessor is not present, it is difficult to say whether we can stay in the high gate. Does it still make sense to know who is targeting us? Ye Kong pretended to be a mysterious smile. Actually, sometimes, it is not necessary to use force. Ye Kong finished, and patted Li Haoshan's shoulder. Well, you can arrange it, and then I can choose some elite bands. There is still something going on between me and Senior Kuangpeng, and I will meet you in Yunfuzong. Okay. Li Haoshan nodded and walked down the steps, but just 2 steps later, Ye Kong called him again. When he turned around, a golden light flew towards his palm. I don't need this stuff anymore, do it well, we'll go first. Ye Kong smiled slightly. Kuangpeng could not wait to hold him, turned into 2 golden lights, shot into Tianyu, disappeared at the highest point of the golden sky. The sunset was almost red in the evening, and the figure of Li Haoshan was also red. He held the jade blood card and looked up at the sky. After a while, he retracted his eyes and continued to walk down. The suzerain is back. Well, today's weather is really good. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 844. 844 Unmanned City. This is a city. Cherish the incomparable purple jade covered the ground, the precious and amazing black gold building houses, there are towering city walls, there are various buildings, there are a variety of shops, there are. No one was there. A city without people is never called a city, it can only be called a dead city. At the end of the wide avenue made of purple jade, there is a magical old tree without leaves, and the branches are full of items like our Christmas. Not gifts, but bright light bulbs. On each light bulb there is a human face, or an animal's face, and the brilliant light on those light bulbs illuminates the beautiful and touching face of a woman in green under the tree. This is a prison, not only imprisoned these monks, but also locked me up. Xianxia looked up at the light bulbs, and naturally whispered to herself, and she remembered the boy once again. I don't know why, she always felt that the teenager would bring her a miracle, and she had a little more expectation in her hopeless heart. Although the city is underground, the time is synchronized with the outside, and the scenery in the sky is also illusioned. The golden sunset and the tumbling fire cloud are the layers of the sky from dark to bright. Xianxia seems to be back to how many years ago, a little green cricket hides alone on a rough stone between the gaps of the mountain stream, looks up in awe at the sky, while spitting bubbles, looking forward to the health of the wings figure. This figure has lived in her heart for 100,000 years, so deep and so indelible. This is a prison, but all the prisoners here are left voluntarily, even if they are always in prison. I do not regret it. Xianxia slowly retracted her gaze at the entrance. At the same time, Ecchi was dazed outside the patch of alga. Last time, a monk in Qingming Valley used a plant called watermelon, but this time there were no seeds of watermelon. Is it sucked with water and fire gourd? This is too dirty. It's all muddy water. But before Ye could find a way, Kuangpeng couldn't wait. A ray formation, broken, Kuangpeng raised his hand and broke the outside formation. 5 ghosts. In fact, the strength of Kuangpeng, a few raised his hand can make a big hole. But this is where the old lover comes, and it's rude to smash someone's door when they meet. The 5 ghosts carry method, the 5 little ghosts are not afraid of being dirty, and a lot of mud is cleared out. Someone thought wryly, wouldn't there be a bowel movement here? Of course, these things that are not related to Ecchi, since Kuangpeng has a way, let him get it. Ecchi flashed into the Black Demon sect, and immediately heard the pleasant voice of Yun Qian, the distinguished disciple, number 257, welcome back to Black Demon sect, where you can get all kinds of great value service. Well, the welcome speech has changed a little. Could it be that the elder has come again? Ecchi guessed, but didn't ask. After all, his main job now is Kuangpeng. Open me the delivery service panel. With Ecchi's command, several teleportation positions provided by the Black Demon have appeared. A total of 5 can be stored in the collection's teleportation coordinates. The first is Xianxia's family, the second is Pipazu, the third is Yingxiuchen, the fourth is Mixed Yuan Zone, and the fifth is empty. Help me collect the address I am currently logged in, Ecchi commanded. Please pay 100 spirit stones. Not to mention, Yun Qian can forget everything, but she will never forget the money alone. Ecchi put in the prepared top-grade spirit stone, and thought to himself, this elder is alright, but this wealthy fan is not very good. I heard that elders such as Kuangpeng have to pay a lot of spirit stones on a regular basis. I don't know what the old guy is so old, what do so many psychic stones do? Ecchi murmured, and then heard Yun Qian say, your collection location is full. Whether you add a collection location, please pay 1 million for each additional stone. No more. Later Ecchi whispered secretly, the Black Demon sect, even darker than Li Haizan, and it will be called the Black Demon section 1 million, is it so easy to come? Yun Qian said again, the disciple sent a message on August 26th, and he will often come to see you recently. Ecchi was overjoyed. Okay. That disciple was the one who sold the gold fruit. Ecchi went to explore Kangbei. The big purpose was to find this fruit. Now that he has news, he is certainly very happy. In fact, when he went to Kangbei and then went to Yunyao, his gains were still great. I got the chalcedony, I got the recognition of Lu Junro and opened the pipa beads, I got the later exercises of the major denominations in Kangnan, I joined the black magic demon and entered the mustard space to advance the budding. Now I have got the gold, it can be said that a lot has been harvested. Of course, I got the mature beauty Huang Shishi, the beautiful three-disciple Yanshuai, and almost came to the ons with the goddess-level former clan Lu Junro, and it was really amazing. Why is it so good for women? But there are also a lot of responsibilities. Huang Shishi has no news yet, Lu Junro is still in the devil zone, helping De Kishan to take care of Li Cheniu. Zi Yanlong is estimated to be waiting for himself while serving the demon lord, as well as the shadow family and the holy demon. NovelMTL.com comrades still need to work hard. I really take myself as God. Yekong shook his head and sighed, one by one impossible tasks, but can he refuse? Can you escape? Can you turn a blind eye? Maybe these are the wills that brought me to myself. Yekong Gli kept hanging outside, and came out after a while, and found that Zeos had almost cleared up, and calculated in his mind, and turned to learn this trick of Kuang Peng, the 5-ghost handling method, free coolly. At this moment, Kuang Peng was nervous, after all, he had disappeared for many years. Not 90 years, 90 years. Yekong also knows that this is not Ling Ziqiu's single love for a bird. In fact, Kuang Peng is also very interesting. Otherwise, what would you do if you were peeking at others when you were old? Still not convinced? Look at Kuang Peng's sassy bag at this moment. Do you say I went in like this or changed into the original form? Also, if I go in this way, do I want to remove my cape? My face is not hurt yet, I am afraid to scare Xiaoling's sister. Someone had a chill, Brother Rock, Bird Sister, oh my god, I been numbed by you. Also, isn't my black clothes unlucky? Kuang Peng's worry became less and less reliable. Yekong was depressed. Well, you have a lot of ideas for this bird, but I'll tell you, in fact, those are not important. What's important is that I'm back. Oh no, it's you back, she waited. It's you, not anything else, and I don't think she's accountable even if you're old, ugly, short, and moneyless. Sister Xiaoling, you're really good, a big rock bird is already moving to death. Yekong nodded and said, okay, let's go in now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 845. Meet each other. The setting sun was so bright, but the noon sun, but after a long look, there was an inexplicable loss. Ling Ziqiu stares like this for a while every day, but there is no result every day, and she keeps hoping and disappointing, forming an endless loop. But today, this cycle is finally unlocked. Clicking, the lid to this lonely city opened, and the two figures slowly flew off. Yekong glanced around this fairly familiar place, thinking in his heart, was he shouting? When Ling Ziqiu appears, how do you introduce yourself? But none of these seemed to worry him. A thin lake of green skirts came out from the dazzling light at the end of the avenue, which was too bright. Yekong was a little dizzy, but still clearly saw the dew on that pretty face. Here, the tall black figure was like a demon too. He stepped forward step by step. As a monk who achieved great success during the Mahayana period, at this moment his steps no longer calmed down. You know, this distance they have walked 90,000 years. The light at the end of the road stretched their shadows for a long time, and the two shadows finally overlapped together so closely. The evening sky was so bright that the clouds were scattered and there was a faint floral fragrance in the air. The two met after such a long time, naturally they cried and hugged, and they kissed each other warmly, like glue, like paint. There is a saying how to say, ah, the old house was on fire. Yekong's mission is completed, so he will not stay longer. His old wife and wife, he was also eager to look at, his own wife is still waiting. The next day, Yekong was ready to leave. For this matchmaker, Kuangpeng and Lingziqiu were very grateful for their kind stay, but Yekong returned to his heart. Kuangpeng laughed, I have felt that Tianjia came 4 months later, and when you are gone, I will also retreat for a while, heal my wounds, and adjust my mindset. You must come here, those fairy lights are wasted without anyone answering. Rest assured, I will come. Yekong asked uneasily, is it too late to heal in 4 months? Kuangpeng laughed, it's too late, but I'll go to the elder and let him let me go to the Mustard Time Tower for a few months to practice. But I heard that the Mustard Time Tower only accepts monks below the level of transfiguration, and those who surpass the level of transfiguration have only one chance. Kuangpeng laughed, I'm a person who doesn't love cultivation, so this time the opportunity has been useless. I never thought I would use it now. Yekong nodded. Then I will rest assured. After 4 months, I will be there. As soon as he was about to leave, Lingziqiu spoke again. Brother Ye, you've been very helpful to us. We can't return anything. From here on, you can use everything. Yekong laughed. That would be nice. With so many amethysts, you can't just dig what you want? I made it. The most important thing is that those who practice the 5 Elements Ascension Sutra will encounter the problem of lack of metallic spiritual power during the foundation period, which means that the 3 apprentices of Yekong will need purple jade in the future. But this is not the main thing. Lingziqiu laughed again, Brother Ye, in fact, those purple jade and black gold are not important. What is important is the illusion in the city. This illusion can both confuse people, get lost in them, and do not want to leave, and at the same time, this illusion has great benefits. Yekong wondered, is there a benefit to fantasy? Stupid, Kuangpeng yelled. Lingziqiu stopped talking, looked at Kuangpeng with affection, and let him say. Kuangpeng said, have you heard of the 9th fruit? Let great success monk experience the 9th reincarnation in a short period of time, experience the many states of the world, and the 4 seasons of reincarnation, and find your own divine spirit. Yekong understood, and he was overjoyed. Illusions can also do this. Use illusions to create illusions, and feel mortal life. Oh my God, this is a shortcut to fast God. Kuangpeng laughed, when you find that Huang Shishi, you can let her come over, and you don't have to go to Shadow Snow City to pretend to be mortal. Yekong laughed, Huang Shishi hasn't been found yet, but I have another one. Let her be a first. When Zhu Lingfei got the news, he was crying with excitement. She never thought that she could become a god. She always worried about how Yekong handled her. Who knew it would give her such good news? However, it is depressing that she hasn't reached the full consummation of Yuanying yet, but it is fast. Anyway, she is also idle. She almost repaired it for little. The key is to find her spiritualization, even if she is not temporarily. It is also very good for her. As a result, Yekong left Zhu Lingfei, and he went back alone, seeing that after this period of getting along, he proudly looked down on Yekong's Zhu Lingfei and was quite reluctant to him. Rest assured, I'll pick you up in 4 months. Yekong pinched Zhu Lingfei's face and flew to the black demon in a flash. Zhu Lingfei Chiao blushed, said in his heart that it was also good to have a little master. Was he lucky or unfortunate when he was caught by him? The transmission service of the Black Cloister is really convenient. You only need to go to a place once, and you can go between them after you write down. Yekong teleported from the Black Demon sect to the Kangnan Mixed Yuan sect, but was not in a hurry to go to Angguo, but met the one who sold the gold fruit. Sure enough, the disciple was in Zanga on the 7th day of the 26th. As soon as the news of Yekong passed, the guy immediately returned, and Yekong could meet in a meeting room. Yekong was 952, and the disciple was 872, which was not much different, but the cultivation was much worse. Of course, you can't see the other side's cultivation in the Devil in Black, but just a word from that guy, he said, These 10 gold-bearing fruits are my orchard in Xianxia. For more than 180 years ago I picked it up. I was just a baby, and I went with my friends. The baby was born 180 years ago, and now it is of course much higher than Yekong. Number 8726 said with a smile, "We are all going for the first time, and we do know how to use the heart charm." So a few friends teleported in and found out that everyone was scattered. That time, a friend of mine found treasures will be closed when they come back. They will rise in less than a century. Another friend was chased after being entered and came out without getting anything. Other friends found some top quality artifacts or natural treasures. It's also again, I was unlucky and sent it to an orchard. There was nothing but gold-bearing fruits. After picking and turning for a long time, I met those monks who were robbed in Xianfu and had to pick some gold-bearing fruits. "Come back," said number 8726, it looked very depressing. After all, the 5 Elements Xianfu was opened only 200 years ago. What a great opportunity. If you bring a heart charm at the time, everyone will teleport together, and you are not afraid of being killed by others. Who knows? I went there once and brought back the chicken ribs. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 846. 846 Dharma Demon. He went on to say, although the effect of this golden fruit is normal, that is, to make mortals appear spiritual roots, but it is also something that is not available outside, so I put a high price. Who knows that today, none of them have been sold. Yekong felt that this person was real. If it was someone else, it would never take the initiative to tell the inside story. It must be bragging about how well this fruit sells and how valuable it is. It is impossible to tell the other party as soon as they meet. My fruit has not been sold for 180 years, isn't that silly? Of course, it cannot be called stupid, it should be true. Ye likes to deal with real people, and now he has a good opinion of them. Yekong laughed. Brother, 876 is before him, so-called brother, seeing that the 5 Elements Xianfu still has more than 10 years to reach the opening date, I will sell me cheaply. I wish you this time the opening day will be very rewarding. 876 smiled and said, I have this intention, or I would like to talk to you in detail. Yekong said, then give me a price. How many spirit stones are 10 in total? I will buy them if they are suitable, but the repair is still shallow, and there are not too many spirit stones. 8726, half the price, at least, 10 pieces together give 25 million. Although he said half price, but half price is still a lot, 2.5 million spirit stone to buy a gold fruit, it is too expensive, even if Yekong is rich, cannot be slaughtered by anyone, right? Yekong shook his head and bargained, 10 pieces are priced at 10 million yuan. Number 8726 said with a smile, you have also chopped down hard. Know why I told you the origin of this fruit at first? That's because this fruit has been extinct except for the 5 Elements Xianfu, and I must have a family member or a friend wants to cultivate. If there is a way to join the denominations, presumably the master will not buy this fruit. You want to open the 5-element fairy house only 200 years ago, and these fruits are produced, asking you for 2.5 million, definitely not expensive. Yekong Kong said, although this person is real, he is not stupid, knowing his urgent need, and telling that the result is extraordinary, this is the best price. But then, these monks are hundreds of years old, and how many stupid people cannot be lower? No, he shook his head. Yekong thought about buying it, although it was a bit expensive, but he was not short of money. After this village, there was no such shop, but then there were new words in 8726. This master, next is the Buddhist monk Yuanzong, the great consummate monk Pandong. I don't know how the master is called. The question number 276 was a little embarrassed, and there was a rule in the Black Demon, that is, Everyone should try not to reveal their identities, except for friends with excellent friendship. This person and Yekong met for the first time, and they asked questions, which made Yekong difficult to answer. Yekong's heart must not be jealous. Yekong laughed. It turned out to be Pandong Genjun, dare to ask if the Fian sect and the mantra sect are. Pandong laughed. My sect and mantra of the mantra are one in ancient times, but because everyone practices differently, a scripture has developed two demon sects, each with their own emphasis. The mantra of mantra is focused on curse. My dictum Mozong focuses on predicting. Don't hide the name of my brother. I asked you not to take the liberty of the name, but that the 8-member team we went to Xianxia still lacked one. If the brother is willing to say the name, let us know in advance. Dharma demon sect can predict future events. Yekong had to admit Yunyeo's magic. Pandong thought Yekong didn't believe it, and said, yes. But we are not able to predict everything, and according to different realms, the accuracy and success rate of predictions will be different. The most important thing is some important things, forcibly predicting suffering from condemnation. This is somewhat the same as Wu Bangzi, but Wu Bangzi not only knows the source of the treasures, but also knows what was previously obscured by history. Wu Bangzi should be stronger. It is just that Wu didn't know what to do. Yekong laughed again. Was there no prediction for Genjun last time? Of course I foresee. Before I entered the house, I predicted that a friend of mine had a heavy treasure. A friend encountered a crisis and I got it. So the friend who was empty-handed and I quickly found out the danger and did not choose to desperate. Pandong said. Wanyudeo said, I want to understand the meaning below, and ask my younger brother to decide. Also, if my younger brother meets my needs, and he is willing to seek treasure with me this time, then these fruits will be given away for free. Give away? Is there such a good thing? However, Yekong knew the cruelty among the cultivators, and immediately asked, the cultivators can disregard their lives and friendship for the sake of the treasures. If you go with you and find no treasures, it's okay. If you find the treasures, how can you ensure safety? Master Shi is very direct. Pandong smiled and said, in fact, not only Master Shi you have this consideration, but I also fear that my own person will move the knife behind. After all, there are very few people who can control the greedy in front of the treasure, but now I can answer you, you don't need to worry. In order to go to Wuxingxian for this time, we are well prepared and no longer as reckless as last time. We not only bring a heart charm, but also, I also purchased the essence and blood contract book at a high price. Before you leave, you must use this book to swear collectively. You must not attack each other and frame each other. There is a dangerous collective response. If you violate the oath, you will immediately become pus. Yekong nodded. If he had the essence and blood contract, he could go and see. After all, he was also curious about the 5 Elements Fairy House for a long time. Besides, only the name is revealed at the moment. The buddies are no longer in Yunyeo. Yekong nodded and said, Mixed Yuan Demon Yekong. Pandongdeo, Hunyuan Mozong, I have never heard of it. He then asked, is that the master is true or God? Asked about Chiu Wei, Ye was a little embarrassed, scratching his head and saying, just, Jadan. Ah. Oh. Pandong was disappointed. He took the liberty to ask, just because the Black Demon sect would not accept people for 100 years, presumably the disciples in the sect were all pretty good. And everyone is a man in black, who knows each other's secrets and easily won't betray him. The last one, Si Yekong, is not like the poor. For these 3 reasons, Pandong asked the matter to Yekong and Pan and issued an invitation, but I heard that Yekong's cultivation is too low. Yekong asked, are there any realm requirements for the treasure hunt of the 5 elements Xianfu? Pandong said, no, although the 5 elements Xianfu is in Kangming, there will be a star boat to pick up people, there is no requirement for the realm. But it will be dangerous to enter Xianfu. After all, for many years, good babies have been people. After finding it almost, you must go to the depths of Xianfu, and those places that have not been explored by others must have powerful guarding spirit beasts or puppet guards. Without strength, you cannot find good treasures. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 847. Get a gold fruit. That was the case. Yekong nodded, and he thought of the trenches on the Yi family's star boat. If those trenches were the puppet guards in the five elements Xianfu, but it is not possible to think about them, those trenches are too strong. If the treasures are all guarded by trenches, then you will find a fart treasure and die. Pan Dong also said, I heard that those guarding bailing beasts or puppet guards are all equivalent to the Yuanying or the deified period. Therefore, the five elements Xianfu only stipulates that monks above the prince can only enter once to prevent the inside of Xianfu. All the treasures have been found by the gods. Originally set this rule for this reason. Yekong thought about it. In fact, Pan Dong Zhenjun, don't look at the lower level of cultivation. Don't hide. Zhenjun said that there is a little ability in the downside, and it has also fallen down in the lower hands. More than one Yuanying. Zhenjun, let's put it this way, although it may not be able to save others, if it is self-protection, it will definitely not hinder you. Hee hee. Pan Dong couldn't help laughing, the boy was too good to blow. If it is said that you have reached the great completion of Jidan, with the magical advantages, it is possible to kill the true monarch in the early days of Yuanying. But please, as soon as you've gotten into Dan, you beheaded Yuanying Zhenjun? What story do you tell? Pan Dong determined that the boy was bragging. However, this Pan Dong is actually not exposed in person, but just smiled. Actually, the terrible thing is not just the bailing beast and the puppet guard, the most terrible are the monks who have not found the treasure, the so-called killing fireproof gold belt. How can a treasure hunt kill someone and grab a treasure? So every opening day, there are many true monarchs who join forces to kill someone to steal treasure, and sometimes there is a monarch to do this, which is very dangerous. Speaking of this, Yekongdao really wants to go to the Wuxing Xianfu with this group of Pan Dong. It seems that Pan Dong and others have not studied the Wuxing Xianfu for more than 100 years. And there is a contract of essence and blood, which seems to be good. Of course, it is now that people do not want him to go. Yekong smiled. Pan Dongzhen, just now you said to foretell, why don't you tell it beforehand? Maybe Ye is not strong in other aspects, but in Xianyuan, he thinks he is still good. If you do nt say anything else, let us say that there are 5 billion people on the planet. Why do you choose him? Sure enough, Pan Dongzhen made a calculation, then turned to look at Yekong. Although Pan Dong wore a hood, he could see that he was a little surprised. Yekong looked at this action and knew that the result must be good. He asked quickly, Pan Dongzhen, what is the result? Pan Dong also murmured in his heart, according to his legal calculations, if he brought this person, he would gain a lot, but the key is that this person is too low, and it is a burden to carry it. Maybe everyone will protect him. Pan Dong thought about it and said, Brother Ye, your cultivation is still too low. If this cultivation is done, you will risk entering it, there must be danger, but according to the prediction of the law, it will bring you a lot of gains, so I have a hard time choosing. I still ask several other Taoists and I will reply to you. Yekong nodded and said, yes, you will leave me a message at that time, and it will be more than 10 years since the opening of the government. I will try my best to improve it. If I succeed in infancy, all problems will not a problem. That's fine. Pan Dong nodded, but thought it was impossible. Even if Yekong's Jindan is now complete and his retreat is broken, it will not necessarily be able to turn the baby out of customs for more than a decade. What's more, Yekong has just ended up with Dan. It only takes 18 years to get through the Dandan period, which is really a genius among geniuses. Pan Dong didn't know. In fact, Yekongji remembered the mustard time tower. 10 times the time, 1 year equals 10 years, and 10 years equals 100 years. If the buddies can't bear babies for 100 years, what a mess. But having said that, the mustard time tower is not your ancestral ancestor. Will the elders let you live long? It seems unlikely. In short, that is a question to be considered in the future. Yekong is most concerned about the 10 gold fruit. Pan Dong also knows that Yekong cares about this matter, but before he loses his character, I will give you 25 million things. Are you really stupid? Seeing that Pan Dong had a hard time making choices, and Yekong felt that the person could be delivered, he said, Brother Pan, let's look at it this way. Everyone is 1 yard at a time, and Yema won't be spared. Even the 10 gold fruits, 20 million spirit stones, we will trade it now. As for the 5 elements fairy house, we can't go there, and we don't have to contact this transaction. Pan Dong's impression of Yekong was very good. Although Yekong cut off 5 million spirit stones, Yekong's move was generous. Okay, let's trade. Not long afterwards, Yekong finally left 10 devil in black with 10 delicate small wooden boxes and set off on his journey to the Angwo mining village. Yunfuzong, the main hall. On the hollow flower cover of the brass incense burner in the hall, heavy white mist is slowly flowing out. The white mist settles and rolls in the hall, like white clouds come to the house, and the hall is like a sea of clouds in the immortal world. The main seat on the main hall, the head Uncao Guang frowned. Lu Xianxia, a lover beside him, stood beside him quietly. Below are a few ancestors of Yunfuzongdan. Everyone is discussing the Jomen conference that will be held in the sect 3 months later. Jidan's ancestor Lu Tianyang said, Uncle, I see that Ling Shushan and mixed Yuan sects will definitely be lost this time, so we should also pose in advance to pay attention to the new sects who may become high gates. Before Lu Tianyang finished, Cao Muking interrupted, Lu Tianyang, what are you talking about? Our Yunfuzong is now faintly Kangnan Niu Er, Xiandi invited everyone to talk to us in Yunfuzong. Why should we take the initiative? Show off the new sect? You can't even figure it out. What are you talking about? Everyone heard Cao Muking's words very early, and they all nodded and said yes. But Lu Tianyang smiled and was not bothered. He continued to say, the ancestors of Muqing said very well. Our ancestors have the tendency to rule the south, but it is precisely because of this that we have to deliberately hand in those new sects. Lu Tianyang paused, and then said, whether it is an individual or a sect, who doesn't have a few friends? Even mortal emperors must have a few generals, right? What I am talking about is not to show compliments to the new sects, but it is to give him some face and make them friends of my clan, or to be named as a real fight. Everyone, it is much cheaper to find these new denominations as friends. Cao Guang's mind is also a little moved. Who doesn't care about money and power? He didn't have the opportunity before, and he didn't think about it, but now he has the opportunity. If it becomes the largest denomination in Kangnan, then Yunfuzong will create a glorious situation in history. Cao Guang's name may be forever disciple of the next generation. Do it? Then how do you say that my case is good, so that the other person can understand it, but not contrived? Cao Guang's sentence showed that he was already tempted. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 848. 8 news came. Lu Tianyang laughed. In fact, it's very simple. You can lose your power by the far side, you can get the power by the near side. The so-called holding one down is nothing more than attitude, reception specifications, and seating arrangements, lowering the standards of Lingju Mountain and Mixed Yuan Zone. New rising sects such as Gao Haitian Zone and Huanglong Zong. Cao Guang nodded, hesitating. Regardless of attitudes, reception specifications, and seating arrangements, these seem to be trivial matters, but they are very important. They express the importance of a party to each other. At this time, Cao Muse spoke. Her voice was not as sharp as Cao Mocking's, and her words were not sharp, but they were in place and hit Cao Guang's mind. Cao Muse said, "Uncle Guang, there are countless big and small ancestors in Kangnan. Who knows that the current master of the mixed Yuan zone is your personal disciple? The relationship between our zone Yuan and the mixed Yuan zone is connected in a continuous way." Monk Guang Kangnan smiled. Uncle Guang asked him to think twice. In fact, Cao Guang's hesitation was the reason, and Ling Shushan was ignored. If he turned his face with the mixed Yuan zone, it would be impossible to do something. Lu Tianyang said again, "Muse ancestor, what you said is extremely true. If Li Hezi is still the monarch of Suiwan sect, then we certainly support him. But now Li Hezi died in Kangbei." "You talk nonsense," two voices sounded at the same time. "It is Cao Mo's and Cao Mooking's sisters, they are usually facing each other, I do not know why, but today they are in the same voice." Cao Muse said, "I was excited because one of my apprentices was his companion, and another apprentice was with him in Kangbei." "What are you excited about?" Everyone in the hall was also surprised. Although Cao Muse's feelings were very feminine, no one regarded her as a woman. She hated men. It is rare to be excited about a man today. The two sisters looked at each other. Cao Mooking sat down and Cao Muse said, "Lu Tianyang, Li Hezi is the disciple of Yuan Ying who is the head boy. Now I do nt know if my disciple lives and died in Kangbei, why do you hold him in one breath dead? Could it be that you want him to die?" After Cao Muse said, there was a faint killer in the always tender and charming face. Cao Muse's expression made Lu Tianyang have a fight in his heart, but he thought of the spirit stone sent by Hai Tianzone before, and he stubbornly replied, "Muse ancestor, in fact, I hope Li Hezi can return safely. But that it is unrealistic. Li Hezi has a fierce temperament, and the devil is cruel and fierce. How can a person like him survive?" Lu Tianyang said this reasoning. Everyone in the hall nodded secretly. It has been rumored that Li Hezi and the devil woman were obviously rumors. How could his personality be ashamed for 5 years in Kangbei? Obviously impossible. Maybe it really died? Seeing everyone agree, Lu Tianyang was pleased to see Cao Muse. In fact, he still had a little interest in Cao Mose. Cao Mose died of a man in his early years. He was gentle and gentle. The most important thing was his beauty. The mature charm was still a little bit sad. Finally, the Cao family was in power. Such a woman is exactly what Yun Fuzong's dreams of all the ancestors of Dandan. Lu Tianyang said, "Actually, I can understand the mind of sister-in-law. Your apprentice Zhang Weihai is his companion, and another apprentice Huang Zixuan is alive or dead and has a great relationship with him. Well, everyone wants them to return safely. But, we have to look at the facts. If we do nt say anything else, let us say that the corpse yin zone's formation has now been removed, and the absolute barrier has been restored. Even if Li Hezi is dead, how can he come back?" Yeah, those old ancestors who hadn't spoken all nodded and said yes. Last year, when the corpse Yinzong's teleportation formation was completely destroyed, there was a tumult. All these things have a purpose. Li Hezi could not return even if he did not die. With that said, even Cao Muse couldn't refute. Lu Tianyang was very happy and clenched his fist at Cao Guang, and said, "If our Li Hezi's relationship, Zun Yuan Zone and Wu Zone have no friendship at all, and even everyone has hatred, why did Yun Fuzong help these white-eyed wolves?" "Well, it makes sense." Cao Guang finally clapped. But at this time, a sharp woman's voice sounded, "Anyway, I don't agree. If Li Hezi really comes back and finds that we support others to squeeze out the mixed Yuan zone, he will definitely not give up. It was Cao Muking who spoke again. The crowd was surprised this time. It makes sense for Cao Mos to help Yekong speak. Cao Muking repeatedly talked to a man for 2 times, which is really rare. Lu Tianyang angered, what if we don't give up? Could we be afraid he won't succeed? Although Lu Tianyang said so, he was still a little bit frustrated. I don't know why, even if he is much taller than Yekong, he is still a little afraid of him. Because this kid is not afraid of death and dares to die. People are afraid of being ruthless, ghosts are afraid of evil, this is the truth. Lu Tianyang depressed the inexplicable chill Xianxia Guangdao, please ask the suzerain to rule. Cao Guang is also a bit difficult to choose. If Yekong can't come back, he can't use common sense to this kid. And Yekong's reputation in Yunfuzong is not small, and there are many friends. If he really abandoned the mixed Yuan zone, I am afraid that those disciples inside and outside will have opinions. Hard to choose. Cao Guan couldn't decide, but saw a golden light coming from outside, it was a note. Cao Guan raised his hand to catch it, delved into his senses, and smiled suddenly. Well, don't discuss this matter, do as originally planned. Cao Guan waved his hand and prepared to leave. Lu Tianyang was rescued by people's money and others. When Cao Guan originally intended to move, he changed his mind temporarily. He couldn't accept it, and asked, Uncle, why? He didn't finish talking, Cao Guan raised his hand, and the transmission sounded like golden light to him. You see for yourself. Lu Tianyang looked inside with a sense of consciousness, his face suddenly pale. Cao Muking seized it with a hand, and immediately laughed, news of the Yuan sect, Yekong, the ancestor of the Yuan sect, confirmed that Li Hiza was his pseudonym, returned to the ancestors. His revision was to break through to the early stage of Dandan. Ye people, revised as unknown, at least the monks of the gods, 80% may exceed the gods. On the day of Yekong's return to the sect, he led the public to force the palace's Haitian zone to be destroyed, and all 4 infants of the Haitian zone fell. Xianfang, a monk in the late Yuan infant period, was killed by a mysterious black man, and Xianguo changed his ownership. Other news is under investigation. Li Hiza was still very popular in Yunfuzong. As soon as the news came out, Jidan was very happy. Cao Muse even had tears in her eyes, and quickly said, I'll tell Wu Yi. After a while, some people in Yunfuzong shouted, Master is back. Master will win. At the moment, Yekong is still in the process of rushing to Angguo. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 849. 849 Violent Girls. Every time I go home, I am so anxious. This is human nature. I wander out, how much frustration, and how much blood and sweat I can bear, but I miss homesickness, but it is difficult to restrain. However, Yekong didn't have the mad ability, the mixed Yuan zone was close to the north of the Kangnan continent, but Nguo was in the south of the Kangnan continent. Day and night, non-stop. There are 2 magical flying swords under his feet, the speed is fast, no matter how good the scenery below cannot let him rest his feet, keep flying, drink spiritual wine and spiritual stones if he is not strong enough, if he is tired, find a place to meditate. 2 months later, one day, Huangzhou, a remote mining village. Outside the village, several 14 and 5-year-old boys are confronting the opposite 16 and 7-year-old boys. The big boys laughed sarcastically, Huzi, this is our Kink village's site. Did you poor boys in the miner village not be beaten enough last time? Is it tickle again today? These slightly older boys are all teenagers in Kink village, their parents are businessmen, their families are quite rich, and their clothes are good. And those slightly smaller boys are all from the miners' village and are descendants of the miners, so they are all ragged. The children of the miner village will go to mine when they are 16 years old, So at this time, the outsiders are not old, and therefore they are bullied by Kink village every time. The child named Huzii, whose name is Fansu, is the child of minor village. He was dirty, like a mud monkey. There were a few bruises on his face, which seemed to be a lesson from the last beating, but his childish face was a little proud. Zhang Sufei, don't you deceive people too much. Isn't your family just in Kink village to transport water to our miners' village? Our miners don't drink water and make your family die, Huzii cried loudly. Zhang Sufei's little sister laughed, do NT drink, do NT drink, do NT drink if you have a species make your miners thirsty. Huzii cursed, you are dead. Zhang Sufei also scolded, you are thirsty. They were all children. They scolded and started preparing to push each other. Zhang Sufei shouted, hit these minor cubs. Tigers, they are not opponents, shouting, while reluctantly supporting, boss, save us. Zhang Sufei scolded, what boss, how can you have a boss? At this moment a clear girl voice sounded, Zhang Sufei, I want to beat you. After the sound was over, the children of the miners' village immediately separated, and a nodded twinkling, a little girl about 10 years old, appeared among the mud monkeys. The girl was wearing a small red cotton jacket with snow-white edging on the edge, and the beautiful face of the little girl was set off with pink makeup. The little girl childishly lifted a small fist-like fist and said crisply, Zhang Sufei, I want to hit you. If an adult is sure to laugh, whose little girl is really cute, but who can your little fist beat? But when Zhang Sufei and others saw the little girl, they all froze. They saw cats like mice, and they even had dead hearts in their hearts. Why did you invite this savage ancestor? I heard that the tiger on the mountain couldn't help her punch. Sister Brute, we don't know that Huzii is your younger brother. We know something wrong, and we promise to change it later. Isn't that fast? The little girl raised her fist again, and Zhang Sufei and others turned around like Monty Python. A battle has vanished. The kid named Tiger was proud, and smiled, yeah brute force, you are really good, if I have such a powerful daughter-in-law. The little girl suddenly became furious, Tiger, I want to hit you. The tiger was suddenly scared, and the other children fled, leaving only the little girl alone. She laughed and said, my son, I feel you are getting closer. In order to be afraid of the world, Yekong lowered his head in the cloud near Kink village, and walked alone to the miners' village in the mountains. Walking on the mountain road, he saw a girl wearing a small red jacket, which was very cute. Little sister, where is the family? Yekong asked. The girl said bitterly, they don't care about me. Isn't it? Yekong Glee scolded the family asshole, then hugged the little girl and said, is your house in the mountain? I'll take you home. The girl nodded, but looking at someone with a strange look, Yekong didn't think much. This is a small mountain ridge. Standing above, you can see the tall houses in the miners' village, and you can see that the scale is larger than a few years ago. Yekong asked again, where do you live? The girl said, the biggest house in the village is my house. Yekong Kong moved and asked, what's your last name? The girl said, my last name is Yet. Actually I don't want the last name, but they all call my last name. Yeah, I don't have a name. They said they would wait for someone to come back and ask him to call me, but I have a nickname. People in the village know that I have a lot of energy, so they call me Ye Brute. Yekong fainted, how can any girl call this name? But this girl, won't she be her daughter? Thinking of this, somebody was terribly happy, couldn't help pinching the girl's pink face, and the girl immediately waved her pink fist, and said angrily, I want to beat you. Yekong laughed, ignored her, and kissed her vigorously. Daughter, let's go home. Strangely, the little girl turned red with a small face. Yekong came to the largest one in the village. The gatekeeper did not know Yekong, but when Yekong reported his name, The old man knelt on and said, "Yes, Xianxia, if it wasn't for you, you are old. No, now I do recognize the immortal, it's really useless." The old man was also the corpse poisonous man. Yekong quickly lifted the old man, and the old man went in to sue again. Yekong waved his hand and walked in. Angwo is still very cold at this moment. Several women are in the stove-side room in the back room, hugging their children and holding their children. Xiao Hong said as she cleaned the table, "Xiao Qin is really like this, she went out for consultation even on such a cold day, and didn't know she was worried about her body." Chen Juniang hugged a 4 or 5-year-old boy and laughed, "She has been training martial arts since she was a child, and her body is fine. It's okay. You see how healthy she gave me my grandson." On the other side, Feng Xiniang, who was holding a 4 or 5-year-old girl, laughed, "Mom, there are men and women who have good luck in life." Chen Juniang laughed, "Yeah, that's right, you are also good. I thought that I had been commensurate with your sister for a while." Feng Xiniang was embarrassed immediately, and blushed, yelling, "It's not the bad boy, let him accidentally." The women in the room laughed. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 850. 85 Small Pity. However, after the laughter, there was a tacit silence, and then Chen Juniang couldn't help but mutter, "This kid does not know that when he comes back to see his son and daughter, he knows cultivation." There was even more silence in this room. No one wanted to talk or know what to say. At this time, the little boy in the hands of Chen Juniang suddenly cried, breaking the tranquility like Jianbing, and all the women were busy at once. The little boy was already talking. It turned out that he accidentally pissed, so he cried. "It's so big to use a diaper," Chen Juniang scolded him to wet his pants. When the boy cried, the girl in Feng Xiniang followed. Xiao Hong was busy running outside to get the clean children's pants, and the house was in a mess. When Xiao Hong opened the door and braked, her expression on Xiao's face changed again and again. First it was incredible, then it was ecstatic, then it covered its mouth with hands, and finally, the eyes were so full of tears. Then the whole room was quiet, everyone looked at Yekong outside the door in surprise. The charcoal fire on the stove was red, a pot of freshly boiled water was spitting hot air, everything was calm, even the child stopped crying and looked curiously at the Xingyi boy outside the door. Until he burst into tears. The women in the house began to cry. I'm sorry, Yekong kept saying sorry, whenever he thought that these women weren't there when they were giving birth, and when he was wandering, the women took his children hard, and he couldn't stop. Tears. This time, we will never be apart again, Yekong said solemnly to them. Soon, the women's crying ceased, and Yekong learned from their intermittent words. After he left, Lu Qin and Feng Xiniang were both pregnant. They gave birth to a pair of men and women, their names have not yet risen. Unfortunately, Xiao Hong was not pregnant, which made Xiao Hong very depressed. After a while, the ancestor of Huang Quan next door got the news, he and his wife Xiaoying girl rushed over. It's been almost 6 years, and you have grown into a handsome guy, Yekong gave Huang Quan an old ancestor. This guy is still the same, and said with a big grin, "Smelly boy, it's all right, and Laozuk is about to build a foundation." What? Yekong looked at it. Sure enough, Huang Quan's ancestors also came to the full consummation of gas. The first realm of practicing the 5 elements ascension of the 6 years was very fast, but Huang Quan's ancestors abolished the original exercises and rebuilt them to increase speed. Still very fast. Yes, I will return to you to build the Jidan of the Blood Dan demon, and you will be successful in building the foundation once. Yekong did not say that the Blood Dan was cultivated by living people. Huang Quan's ancestors didn't matter, but the women in the house were afraid they were uncomfortable. Huang Quan's ancestor laughed, "Actually, it doesn't matter what Zujidan is. I can feel it now. The 5 Elements Ascension Sutras are really powerful. One time, Zoji can be said to be 10 or 9. Yekong also nodded, watching the brothers of the Lu family come in, and patted Huan Quan's ancestors. I turned back to tell you that I saw a lot of novelty outside this time. Lu Jun and Lu Yi came in and cried too much. They didn't take Ding Yan Dan, they haven't seen it for a few years, and they look much older. Their actual age is now 40 years old. In addition, they are working on the mine and look very old, which makes Yekong feel sour. The brothers of the Lu family came on their knees and hoed. Yekong quickly pulled them up and said, "Two brothers, you have suffered, but you can rest assured that I already have a way for mortals to have spiritual roots, and I will take you to practice immortality. All are immortal so that you too can enjoy longevity." The brothers of the Lu family shook their heads. The 2 women behind them were also a man and a woman. Lu Jun said with tears, "Master, we are old, we have wives and children, we have a family and a lot of workers here, we do nt plan anything, we just ask you to bring our children to go ferry road." Yekong's eye circles were also red, and he nodded, "Sure, I am sure Yekong will keep them on the ferry road and protect them." Being talking, Yekong found something wrong. He should be 2 children. Who is the little girl Yayeli that he just held? I saw the little girl staying at the corner of the house, looking down and eating candy beans. Yekong thought about it and found out that his child should be 4 or 5 years old. This little girl is 10 years old. Yekong could not help asking, "Whose child is that?" Huan Quan's ancestor laughed, grabbed a sweet bean from the little girl and threw it to Yekong, and said, "Just look at this and you will know." Yekong took a look at it. This is sugar bean, this is a low-level spirit beast. Yekong suddenly realized, "Oh, you are Deu." The whole room laughed. Deu is transformed, and her strength is super huge, so everyone calls her Ye Brute. Deu found herself lying and piercing. She was furious and shouted, holding her pink fist, "Chen Baixuan. I want to hit you." Huan Quan's ancestors ran away in fright, and shouted, "Smell boy, you control her. She is now more and more disrespectful to her elders. I am busy cultivating her spirit beast, but she still wants to hit me. It's ridiculous." The people in the room laughed again. Yekong furiously said, "Dade, how do you become so violent now, and you still like to deceive? You were not very polite before? How can a good child be like this?" Deo lowered her head and came over. After her transformation, others did not dare to control her, so she played her violent side, and when she heard Yekong's reprimand, she immediately surrendered. "I'm sorry." Deo lowered her head to admit her mistake, and whispered softly, "I didn't lie to you, they called me Ye Brute, you treat me as your daughter." I also learned to talk back. Yekong glared at Deo, was too scared to say anything. In the clinic of the miners' village, a beautiful woman was holding a pen and drawing a spell, and the sun shot through the broken window to shine on her beautiful and shapely body. At this moment, a miner ran outside and shouted, "Goddess Doctor, Ye Xianxia is back." The paintbrush landed, and Lu Qin ran back like crazy. In the mine, a middle-aged man is discussing the price of refined iron with a client. A miner comes up, and the middle-aged man immediately leaves the client and runs away. The client shouted back, "Diao mine owner, hey, don't run, what's wrong with you?" The miner stopped him immediately and whispered, "We are friends of the mine owner, Ye Xianxia is here." The client was scared to speak. After a while, there was a big gathering in the big house. All the people who were related came, and there were many that were okay. The miners who were rescued by Yekong stood outside and watched the excitement. Yekong was telling parting about his family, and saw the owner Diao Xianbin running to his knees. Yekong pulled him and he couldn't get up. When I asked, it turned out that Diao Xianbin had given Yekong 2 nieces. One of them was called Xiao Pitiful. When he crossed the hill the year before, he was killed by a tiger. Yekong couldn't help shuddering, remembering a scene. The girl who was only 16 years old was sitting by the bed and said quietly, "Xianxia, we are all mortal women, we will grow old, we will be sick, we will die, we cannot accompany the fairy after a teacher's life, even the next time Master Xian will not see us, what we want is just to hope that Master Xian doesn't forget us, don't forget this night, even if we die later, please ask Master Xian occasionally." A girl named Xyli. I will never forget, there is a girl called Xyli. To the reader. Today's 5 chapters make up for what was owed on Monday. There will be another chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 851. 8-5 together names. The night was lacquered, with a few stars, like a distant diamond. The weather was a bit cold, and the busy miners all hid their wives and children in the house. There are very few people in the miners' village, and there is a noise from the distance. But in the village's tallest courtyard, it was lively at the moment, and everyone's face was filled with joy, as if it was a new year. In the large central house, several large tables were set up, and everyone talked while eating and drinking, not to mention how energetic. Chen Juniang laughed and said, "Empty child, is your idea of hot pot the only way to cultivate an immortal? It is really good. Niang has never eaten such a delicious noodle." In fact, the hot pot eating method was brought by Yekong from the earth, but since the old lady said so, he laughed, "Mother, yes, the cultivator, all eat like this." Everyone in the big house was shocked. It turned out that the immortal chefs eat hot pot, or the immortal chefs will enjoy it. Eat more, and after Xianxia is away, we can't eat it casually. The crowd didn't understand, but Huang Quan's ancestor understood it. Of course he had no good words and cursed, "Smelly boy, nonsense. My ancestor, Xiu Xian has been practicing for more than 100,000 years, and I haven't heard that monks eat this stuff, what?" Putting it all together, a pot of soup, it's really messy, it's a mess. Before Yekong returned to him, the girl named Xiaoying scolded, "Everything is messy, so you eat less, eat more than anyone, talk more, and that sentence, 'Ancestor I want to be 100,000 years old ago,' I can hear cocoons in my ears." The funny thing is that Huang Quan's ancestor was scolded by his daughter-in-law, but he didn't turn back, but smiled sternly, and said to Yekong, "Your sister-in-law has this temper." Yekong also smiled and whispered softly, "My ancestor, it seems you have changed a lot in the past 6 years. Huang Quan's ancestors have lived with mortals for 6 years. Of course, they are very touched." He looked at the happy people in the big house and said, "Monks have the happiness of monks, mortals have the happiness of mortals. Although they are old and sick, they can also live. Happy, looking at the lively family is the greatest happiness. These 6 years may be the best 6 years I have lived in more than 100,000 years." Yekong nodded and smiled, "But you're leaving with me soon. Your mother Baijie hasn't seen you for so many years and is worried about death." Huang Quan sighed, "I'm still a bit reluctant to leave these simple miners." After he asked, "If my mother saw your sister-in-law about her age, what would she say?" "You don't have to worry about it, isn't it like me and sister Feng Xiniang? Young boys like mature sisters. Besides, my sister-in-law is young." Yekong said, feeling wrong, and said, "You dead boy, arrive now." Master didn't shout, but I called your wife a bitch. Your life is messed up. Hey, Huang Quan's ancestor grinned broadly. The more Ye looked at, the more he felt that the goods were like old hooligans that had been hit by wind and rain. How could they feel like a young man, hesitant, and did not know whether Baijie would doubt if he saw his son like this? While they were talking, Chen Juniang spoke, "Kor, my grandson and granddaughter's name hasn't been raised. When you come back to name it, you can think of a name." Yekong nodded, thinking about it, hugging the boy in Luchin's hands, and smiling. My son's seventh-born child is called Ye Xiaoyu. What about the daughter? Feng Xiniang sent the girl over. Yekong took it and said, my daughter's name is Ye Yiping. The daughter's name has a lot of meanings for the little girl. Yekong said that the big house was quiet for a while, and the Diao family didn't talk. They were afraid that the Wen Xiniang or Chen Juniang would not agree. Feng Xiniang said, Ye Ili, a nice name, and she misses the little girl, I think it's the name. Chen Juniang also nodded and said, Ergo, you don't have to worry about their taste. The women in our family are all good. They won't be ignorant to that point. On the contrary, everyone thinks you are interested. There Diao Xianbin raised his glass and said, Thank Ye Xiangzai, Xiaoping will not have this blessing. If she knows Underjiquan, she must. The owner of Diaomin was choking and couldn't say anything. The little girl next to her was tearing, and the sorrow was spreading again. Fortunately at this time, a crisp voice broke the sorrow. A cute little girl with pink makeup and jade dress in a red and white edged cotton jacket ran over and asked, My son, give me a name too. Okay, Yekong laughed, thinking for a moment, everyone calls you Ye Bruli. I'll change it a little bit. It's called Ye Manly, how about it? Everyone thought it was good, but had not praised the exit, but saw Deo shaking his head, My son, I don't want the surname Ye. Others will think I am your daughter, I want the surname Dragon. Someone here knew that she was a dragon, and some didn't know, but all the people who didn't know were outsiders, and didn't dare to inquire about the master's family. Yekong nodded and thought again, and said, That's called Long Linger. Okay, everyone in the room said in unison. Deo also blushed with excitement. After dinner, send away friends and relatives, neighborhoods, and the rest are family. Diao Xianbin was stopped by Yekong when he was leaving, and a small wooden box was placed in front of him. Diao mine owner, thank you for taking care of my family in these years. In this box, there is a gold fruit that can let mortals have spiritual roots. You can take it. After serving, you can join me to become a hybrid disciple. This is the fairy fruit that makes mortals become fairy teachers. How much is this worth? Diao Xianbin's eyes were all bright. When he took it, his fingers were shaking. However, he saw Xiaoyu around, and gritted his teeth, and then passed over again. Xiaoyu, let you and Xiaoli come to serve the immortal master, and then he did not have a bead, and my uncle knew that you were complaining about your uncle. Now the fairy fruit is here. It is also your credit. Xiaolian is no longer there, so just use it. In fact, these months, Xiaoyu did complain about Diao Xianbin. After all, they are no better than Luchin Xiaohong. They are neither wives nor concubines, they are playing with the immortal master and let the immortal master plant. But unfortunately, if there is no seed, it belongs to Baiwen. But who knows now that Diao Xianbin gave the fairy fruit to himself? Xiaoyu was busy kneeling with tears, and said, Uncle, Xiaoyu is wrong, let this fairy fruit be eaten by your uncle, Xiaoyu can't stand it. Diao Xianbin said, Actually, I didn't think about training myself from the beginning. I just wanted to have an immortal master in my family, so that my Diao family would not be bullied by others. After going out, they could walk with their heads up. This opportunity is for you. Yekong listened to their conversation, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, how similar Diao Xianbin's thoughts were to those of his father and brother. Once upon a time, Ye Harem and Ye Wei dreamed of a monk in the family. Dad, elder brother, not only have I become a monk, but I have already become a monk. You can look down under Jiquan. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 853. 852 Cavalry. Don't fight, since Xiaoyu has been waiting for me for so many years, just follow me. If you take this gold fruit, whoever eats,
Let him go to Yuan zone to find me, Ye Kong said, raising Xiao Yu. He gave Diao Xianbin a trump card of Yuan sect. Thank you Ye Xianxi. Ye Xianxi is a good person. Diao Xianbin went with great joy, and niece Xiao Yu became a person beside Xianxi, and she must become a monk in the future. In this way, she can also cultivate a monk. The Diao family must be thriving. Diao Xianbin left with excitement. Presumably the Diao family did not know how many people had insomnia that night. Looking at Diao Xianbin's appearance, Chen Juniang came out of it inexplicably, and said, I did not meet a good monk in the Ye family. Ye Kong also didn't want the old lady to be sad, and said, Mother, there will be many monks in the Ye family in the future. I found a total of 10 gold fruit in this drink. Everyone has a share. When you look back, everyone will take it. Appropriate exercises, we will live together and become immortals together. When the girls heard this, they were all happy. However, Lu Qin came up and wiped her tears. Master 8 is waiting for me to find the fairy fruit. It must be born to death. I waited at home, but I didn't bury it. Grudge, I wonder if Master came back to visit Ziokin and knew it was wrong. With such an informed and understanding wife, Ye Kong was very happy. How could he punish him, and help Lu Qin wipe the tears from the corners of his eyes, and took a sip on that smooth and warm face. Huang Quan's ancestor laughed, the long night is long, the enthusiasm is good, Xiao Bei has never had a wedding, stinky boy, you have a heavy task today, and... This guy said with a lot of meaning, sent a mean and shameless wink, and pulled the little warbler girl back to the room, walked to the door, and never forgot to drink, king. Oh, dragon spirit. What else is good, come back. Room to go one and. The king was taught by Ye Kong and didn't dare to say more, but he still waved a pink fist against Huang Quan's ancestors before trotting back to the room. The old man is also sleepy. Chen Juniang also knows very well, and she pats Xiaohong before leaving, so the meaning is obvious, they all have it, it's up to you. Xiaohong's pretty face turned red, but she was also a bold girl. As soon as Chen Juniang left, she came over and looked up at Ye Kong with a pair of watery eyes and said, Master, slave card, I don't blame you usually on weekdays, please master, punish. No matter how bold Xiaohong was, she was very shy to say so in front of the girls. After that, his eyes waved, and he looked at the small square bricks on the ground side, and behind him came the snicker of Feng Xiniang. Thinking of being in the southern capital at that time, Ye Kong and Xiaohong used the word punishment as a secret word. Now it sounds so vivid. Punishment, of course, you all have to be punished. Ye smiled shamelessly, and pulled a few girls into the room together. The little girl was embarrassed and was pulled in by Ye Kong. Chained to the door, the room was warm and hot, and the flame of the candle grass was swaying, reflecting the pretty faces of several girls. Then Huajiao, and all of them had a flush on their faces, and their eyes were rippling with water. Looking at the wives who were more touching than ever, Ye Kong, who hadn't acted for a long time, couldn't help but move, as if for the first time, swallowed and said, Mother, let's rest now. Although the children were born, but I haven't seen them for a few years, the 4 women are still shy in heart. Instead, the whined 4 mothers took the initiative and stretched out their hands to help Ye Kong undress. Let's wait for you. And although Ye Kong didn't allow them to be called masters, they were all used to calling, and it was difficult to change their mouths. Ye Kong left them there. After a while, Ye was stripped and laid down on the couch. Ye Kong was still very uncomfortable. It didn't feel like he was punishing them, but he was punished anyway. Soon, a warm body rode up. The 4 women began to be shy, but when it really started, they could not afford to be shy, and each one was very active. Someone sighed, the cavalry is really terrible, the female cavalry is even more terrible. And this time it was her turn, and she sat down swiftly and let out a comfortable breath,
and then smiled slightly. This horse is really strange, and a stick is still on its back end. Someone was so angry that he drove Feng Xiniang off Malay. Do nt fight for 3 days, go to the house to expose the roof, for the sake of husband and wife, you must not be sick cats. I do nt talk too much, everyone imagines. Yekong brought back 10 golden fruits this time, 1 to Diao Xianbin, 2 to the brothers of the Lu family, 1 to the old woman and 4 women, and 1 to the little warbler girl. 1 is ready to go to Yun Fuzong to buy Jier. In this way, everyone spent a few days in the miners' village. Yekong brought his mother and his wife into the pipa beads, and according to their respective spiritual roots, gave them appropriate practice methods to settle them. When Huan Quan's ancestor learned about the role and effect of pipazu, he couldn't help but be moved. He didn't expect pipazu to be such a use, but he was not jealous. Even if pipazu was on his hand, it was just a useless white lin. Son, Yekong asked pipazu to recognize the Lord. That was his chance. This was not something anyone could envy. Yekong was about to leave in the meantime. The only thing that worries me is the brothers of the Lu family. Their children have not reached the age of detecting the spiritual roots. Most of them will not have spiritual roots. They stay. Actually, Yekong said, you two have eaten first, and I will help your children find it later. But Lu Jun and Lu Yi laughed. We are mortals, and we can't live without it. This is our home. We don't want to cultivate a fairy. Just live here. Yekong nodded, and set up a matrix method in the big house of the miners' village before leaving and hung a plaque engraved with ambush symbol on the back of the big house. If there is something, you can go to the mixed UN zone to find me. If you have suffered a major disaster and have no time to escape, you hide in the big house, throw the rune behind the plaque, and activate it with the blood of the Lu family's blood. It is difficult to solve. Only once, less dangerous. Urgent use. When this magic burst breaks, it will be destroyed once 100 miles, and monks below Jidan cannot be spared, so Yekong specifically told him. After speaking, put everyone into the pipa beads, set foot on the flying sword, and walked away. It was less than a month before Yun Fuzong's Jomen conference, and Yekong did not return to Yuan zone. Instead, he first went to the southern capital and took his old lady and daughters to sweep Yeharan's tomb. Probably know that Yekong mixed up famous temples in the Xianxian realm, and Yejia was the old capital of the southern capital. The house is still there, and it can be seen that the government officials have just whitewashed it. Yekong and others didn't go to the official government, went to the grave to sacrifice their ancestors, and left on the same day. When Yekong stepped on the Fijian, the government and the people in Nandu only got the news. When everyone arrived, they saw the smoky smoke in the incense burner on the Taiwan case.